Radio Style.
Holy crap, an effing audio commentary. What's the occasion, Jay? Yeah, well, I felt like bringing back the Radio Style series. This series has been dead for how long, and I couldn't have picked a worse day to come back with this series because the summer heat is back, and I had too much sugary stuff during the day today, so I've got this sand in the throat effect. So let's see if I can even pronounce half this stuff, never mind get this darn thing recorded. But I suppose we gotta come back to the mic sometime. The problem I've been having with the Radio Style series, quite frankly, is a lack of concentrated coolness versus Quicko Flicks and the new Chillin' at Jay's Geek House for either simpler or shorter discussions about various tech topics. But for more general news, I think more talk radio style stuff can definitely come in handy if I can actually stay on point. Let's get to that. Anywho, I'm breaking my 3-month silence to say a few words about Nintendo, which might surprise some people, because I tend not to talk about Nintendo or their products on this channel due to Nintendo's screw bucket policies on Content ID on sites like YouTube. However, I will not be displaying any Nintendo products in the picture for this discussion, but I wanted to say a few words about their screwball philosophy towards consoles. It appears that their uniquely gifted leadership has recently landed in the news for saying, oh, well, you know, the Nintendo NX, it's not going to have all that great of specs, but it's not about hardware specs, it's about the content. It's kind of interesting that I'm talking about Nintendo in the year 2016, because this year marks 20 years of Nintendo's hardware being held back by various gimmicks. The Nintendo 64 became a hot thing here in the US in the mid-90s. I remember Christmas of 1996. There were 3 toys that nobody could get. Tickle Me Elmo, Holiday Fashion Barbie, and the Nintendo 64. There were radio stations going around saying, oh, look, this is what you cannot find in the toy stores, in the Walmarts, in the department stores, anywhere. You just can't find these 3 toys, and the Nintendo 64 is one of them. So I wound up getting my N64 in Christmas of 97. However, it was a big thing to get in Christmas of 96. So assuming, yeah, everything gets all big in the US in 1996, we're talking 20 years of Nintendo having their hardware held back by some kind of gimmick. First, you had the Nintendo 64 running with cartridges when CDs were the up-and-coming standard. It limited the storage capacity and whatnot of the games that could be made for it. Then you moved to the GameCube, which, yeah, they finally had some kind of optical disc, but at the time when DVD was taken off for the first time, the Nintendo GameCube actually had a proprietary format that was smaller. So it's kind of like Nintendo 64, but not as pronounced. Fast forward to the Wii, that thing couldn't even do HD at a time when gaming was going HD for the first time. Yeah, sure, it may have been 720p baby HD for a lot of the games, but seriously? Standard def. And a lot of people are saying that there should be some kind of hardware re-release of the Wii that would allow for HD content and whatnot for Wii games, Wiimote games, etc. And we finally got that with the Wii's alleged successor, the Wii U. And the sales numbers have told the whole story with the Wii U. I mean, the gimmicky console with the I think that the touchpad might even be resistive on that big tablet controller. But the tablet controller constituting over half the cost of the unit, yeah, that wasn't exactly what I'd call smart. But the Wii U at least could be the high-definition Wii that so many of us were looking for. But once again, we hear that, oh, well, the hardware specs don't need to be competitive for the Nintendo NX. Hey, Nintendo, for the last 20 years, you've been getting bailed out by your consoles essentially being Mario boxes. When people want to play the latest Mario Kart, Mario, Zelda, Metroid, then they'll buy a piece of Nintendo hardware. Assuming you don't pull a Sega and just release your first-party strong, console-saving titles on other platforms. I, for one, would love to have a high-definition, super high-powered Mario game on the PC on Steam. Yeah, like that's happening anytime soon. However, this whole thing about console hardware not mattering, No. Matter of fact, I would like to be that guy who's bold enough to say that so long as this kind of drivel is coming out of the mouths of Nintendo's leadership, that, oh, it's about the content, not about the hardware, we as gamers will never see Nintendo get out of this rut where they have to constantly have their systems get bailed out by powerful first-party titles. Granted, people don't buy consoles for the high-end hardware. That's what PC gaming is for. And actually, I believe very much that consoles sell for only two reasons: their price and their simplicity. It's very hard to, even in this day and age of building console killer PCs, it is very hard to build a console killer PC that has the bang for buck that a console has in terms of entry-level gaming. And the consoles are raising the bar on that with some of these projects I'm hearing about, like Project Scorpio. But here's the thing, it's very hard to build a console killer PC, so yeah, price, it's very, very competitive at the low end, and then there's simplicity, not having to mess with drivers or settings of the whole 9 yards. The whole, I push the button, it just works thing, that still attracts people, even if the hardware isn't the best. However, these Nintendo boxes that are sometimes a generation behind their Sony and Microsoft counterparts, that has to stop. The hardware doesn't need to be incredible, but it needs to be in the ballpark of the other consoles. It needs to be competitive. And here's why. When I go to buy a game that's a multiplat, it is an absolute headache spree for me these days. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not so big on buying consoles, because I'll see a game, I'll know it's a multiplat. Question number one, before I even think about taking it off the shelf, is this on Steam? Can I play it on PC? I go to all the trouble to have decent gaming systems. Why on earth should I buy a console version of something if it can possibly run better, be more moddable, be upgradable in terms of the performance and the experience on PC? This is also why crappy PC ports are such a problem, especially that Microsoft Windows architecture something or another in the Windows 10 store that frame rate limited games that were sold there digitally and stuff like that. That's supposed to be fixed with the anniversary patch for Windows 10, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So yes, first question I ask, I go to buy a game anywhere, is this on PC? Because if it is, it's not worth it to buy the console version. Now, suppose the answer to that question is no. You could practically do a flowchart out of this rubbish. So, if the answer is no, there is no PC version, and there's no chance of there being a PC version even in a couple of years, like we've seen with some so-called console exclusives that eventually had some kind of PC version a couple of years later. Next question, which console do I want to buy this for? And this is where Nintendo is going to come up short if their consoles continue not being competitive, as in within the same generation of hardware. The Wii U was essentially the Wii HD. It sold terribly. Big effing surprise, right? And that's going to continue so long as Nintendo keeps playing these games. I don't care what kind of fanboy you are. If you're a big Nintendo fanboy, have at it, Hoss. But this is just never going to stop. So, if I have a Nintendo something or another and something else, why on earth am I going to buy a significantly inferior experience with the Nintendo port of this multiplat? Which leaves what exactly to buy on a Nintendo box? First-party games. In other words, by choosing to not give a rat's rear about hardware specs, Nintendo is continuing to doom themselves to what they've been stuck in for the last 20 years. They will be constantly putting out weak hardware that has to be bailed out by the next Mario Kart or something like that, or the next Zelda. That cross between Zelda and Skyrim with the open world Zelda game looks awesome. That would be a system mover for me. But if they ever want to be anything more than a gimmick system to play Nintendo games on, yeah, bring back the old term, playing Nintendo, that way. They need to start giving a darn about having their hardware at least be competitive and not be significantly behind the rest of the competition. I'm sorry, I know that console gaming is not about hardware. That's what PCs are for. But if you have a multiplat and you want to sell it on the same Nintendo box that people are buying their Smash Brothers, their Yoshi games, their Mario games, their Zelda games, their Metroid, if they ever make another F-Zero game again, hint, hint, Nintendo, F-Zero is long overdue for anything in HD. Well, the last game in that series was GX on the GameCube. Ooh, GameCube. But you see where I'm getting at here? Nintendo can say all this nonsense about, oh, it doesn't matter about the teraflops, don't matter. But the thing is, they do. They don't need to be the best in the world, but they need to be in the ballpark of the other systems. Otherwise, this is all we're ever going to see from Nintendo indefinitely. They will sell underpowered boxes that only move units because of their powerful first-party titles. The good news in this case is that they actually have strong first-party titles. If they didn't have those strong first-party titles saving their asses every single console generation for the last 20 years, they would have been the Ouya of the 1990s. No, seriously. And if not the 1990s, then definitely the Ouya of the 2000s. They would have gone down the exact same route as the Ouya. They wouldn't have had any concentrated coolness, and there would have been no compelling reason to buy any more Nintendo stuff. So, yeah, the house that Mario built is now the house that Mario props up. How long would Nintendo like to keep doing this? They have an opportunity with the NX. They could bridge the gap between home system and mobile, which is a niche waiting to be filled as computers become more and more power efficient. Look at what AMD wants to do with the Zen APU next year. They have potential, but where is the innovation? Where is the desire to break out of this mold of, it's just a new Mario box you're buying every couple of years? Yeah, what's their plan when people finally, here's the thing, Mario Kart 8 was an HD Mario Kart. Smash Brothers on Wii U was an HD Smash Brothers. Now, Nintendo could technically force people to buy the next versions of those games by arbitrarily shutting down the multiplayer on those games. But is that what Nintendo is going to sink to? They have to use the same stunts as like EA with the Madden series or some of these publishers with constant titles that keep coming out every couple of years, turning off the online support for the previous ones and things like that. Or even in the case of Nintendo itself, turning off the online support for some of the Wii versions of those games before their Wii U counterparts hit the market. Anywho, the interesting part about the article that I will link in the description is that they talk about, and they actually put this statement, it's about the content, not the teraflops. They put that to the test. If content was really what drove a system, then where is all the third-party support for the Wii U? Where did all of that go? Where's all the tons and tons of games for the Wii U that everybody wants? Crickets, crickets, crickets. And this is going to keep happening because there's no reason, if Nintendo is too far behind the curve when it comes to console hardware, then there's no reason to play a multiplat on a Nintendo box. Which means you're going to keep playing your Mario Karts, your Marios, your Zeldas, your Nintendo first-party games, and that's it. I think Nintendo should set their standards higher than that. Considering what they've done over the last 30 years, before they decided it's like, oh well, I guess we're stuck with gimmicky hardware that's held back by something. Is 20 years of this nonsense enough? You think? I can't speak for Nintendo, nor would I want to. But you'd think they would have learned a lesson or two from what happened with the Wii U. Or even what happened with the Wii. That flash-in-the-pan console that people, oh, look, Wii Sports. Okay, you had a gimmick. People liked the gimmick, then the gimmick died, as all gimmicks do. The same thing happened with the Kinect. Oh, yeah, we're going to make the Kinect mandatory on the new Xbox. Now, the next revision of it, it's going to be more expensive, significantly more expensive to play Kinect games on the new Xbox One, because you need to buy a proprietary adapter to bring your Kinect back. Funny how these things change on a dime. What's next? PlayStation Move? Same thing? Anywho, the ball's in Nintendo's court as to whether they actually ever want to get out of this rut, or are they just going to ride this gravy train until it derails? Because, sadly, despite people complaining about there's not enough innovation in the gaming industry, all these games are too similar to the ones that came before them, people actually do buy the same old stuff over and over and over again. And if they do this with Nintendo products, what reason does Nintendo have to change anything? So yes, the console market versus mobile and PC is changing. There's industry development in that area, but I just don't think that these Mario boxes that Nintendo keeps coming out with every couple of years should really cut it in terms of Nintendo's standards for what kind of market they can get in terms of console gaming. They're sitting on this potential right now. The question is, are they ever going to use it? They've been sitting on it for 20 years now. Come on now. Actually have some fun with it. It's not like it isn't there. Anywho, I'll leave the rest of this discussion for whatever folks feel like putting in the comments. This has been the return of MultimediaJay Radio Style. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't touch that dial.